Honorable Srimati Krishna Ji Raj, the Minister of Agriculture, Farmer Welfare, Government of India, Dr. Ashok Dalwai, the Additional Secretary, Ministry of Agriculture, Dr. Harsh Bhanwala, my friends, ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted to be here at the Global Agri Tech Conference 2017, which is focused on climate smart agriculture, with the title, Technologies and Innovations, Practice or Perish. I would, however, like to take this subject to a much broader and a different level. Undoubtedly, Indian agriculture has come a long way. I see many young people in this audience today, but perhaps they may not even be aware that there was a time that the Indian population survived on the wheat that we received under PL 480 from the United States. And today we are a proud agriculture producing nation with $30 billion of exports, which perhaps are more than our industrial exports. And we have huge varieties of fruits and vegetables that are available, with a very successful delivery of the horticulture mission which the country undertook for last 15 years. What we have gathered here is to look at what we can do with technology. But I'd like to raise some fundamental issues, and I particularly seek the attention of both my Honorable Minister and my a very competent and a very dynamic Additional Secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, because I believe that we need to look at this whole concept of technology transfer in a holistic way. Let us look at some of the challenges this country's agriculture is facing. And I don't like to call it the word problem. Problem has a negative connotation. Challenges incite you to do something to fight them. So my first and foremost challenge for agriculture is the constitutional challenge, because the state is this, agriculture is a state subject, and we require to have is a national approach. We are an argumentative democracy where every decision is argued to death, and that's the right provided by our Constitution. We have a political challenge. We cannot raise fertilizer prices. We cannot change charging the rates for electricity and water. We cannot but waive farmers' loans. We have the administrative challenge. We cannot deliver our schemes on insurance, on credits, on subsidies, and the various schemes that we launch for our farmers. In fact, I know of an NGO whose only job is to make the farmers aware of the various schemes that the government has got. We have the challenge of policy. We have not been able to amend our APMC Act. We are not sure where we want to go on the GMO crops. We are not aware how we have to placate the farmers. Like Madhya Pradesh spent 800 crores to pick up the onions. We are not able to handle the problem of plenty. We don't have a long-term strategy for agri exports. We have the ground reality challenges, the challenges of fragmented holdings, abject poverty to super rich farmers driving in Porsche and BMW cars. We have the problem of the state of the land records in the rural areas, and of course the ever-going debate between the landholder and the tiller. And the social challenge, where the young no more want to be involved in farming, education, media and TV is changing their minds. Education doesn't allow them to think in terms of agriculture. They want, and they do not want, to suffer the drudgery of agriculture. And above all that, we have the changing food habits, greater demand on our food, higher consumption of meat and poultry, which in turn need higher agricultural products. We need greater, better quality and safe foods. Our Honorable Prime Minister has given the clarion call of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. So this is expected to bring to the mainstream more than 200 million Indians who are malnourished today. And then on top of it, we have the challenge of growing population. So what is the critical need? The critical need, to my mind, is not to address agriculture, but to have a clear vision and mission statement, which could be, and I suggest, what do we need to do to ensure food security, food safety, and nutritious diet for the people of India. And this is only possible if farmer welfare, his income streams, and equally important, consumer satisfactions are aligned. I'd like to just share two examples here. I had the privilege of visiting Singapore with the Chief Minister of Rajasthan as a part of a business delegation. And we visited their water treatment facility run by the Singapore government. And it amazed me to learn that about a year ago, they had renewed their 50-year agreement to buy potable water from Malaysia. And the key thing that he explained to me was, to all the delegation that we were, was that what Singapore is doing in the next 50 years to become self-reliant on water. They said, we see no reason why we should be depending on Malaysia to supply us the water. And then he shared the entire, there was a good 20-page presentation, absolutely well thought through, clearly understood as to what they were doing, and you could say it with almost certainty that they will achieve their objective. And they don't have to renew their water mine resources. I tried to look at the second example of what is China doing with such a large population, with similar challenges that I referred to here. China had the same similar challenges. What has it done? And I'd just like to share here that China, once upon a time, was one of the largest exporters of agriculture commodities. Today, its imports every year are more than $110 billion. It imports 85 million tons of soya bean alone, which is more than the total production of India. It imports 1/3 of the world's soya bean into its country. It imports fats and oils, like we do, palm oil and all that. It imports meats, dairy, fruits, vegetables, corn, grains, cotton, and a whole lot of things. And how has China looked at the issue of food safety, food security, food security and then food safety? China struggled with the same challenges. The Communist Party in 2014 announced what it called the #1 document on rural policy. This strategy document accepts that imports will be needed, and this is an important point for looking forward. But initiatives must ensure that domestic supplies would be China's primary food source. Domestic supplies will be the primary food source. The control over the country's food supply shall be by boosting domestic production capacity through investments in irrigation and other infrastructure, science and technology, and strong policy support, and utilizing international markets and overseas resources in a way, which is so important, that ensures a dominant role for Chinese companies, again a very significant policy initiative, in the supply chain for imported commodities. The involvement of the Chinese companies in the supply chain of imported commodities. And what do we see? It has bought Syngenta, the world's largest agrochemical and seeds company, for a small sum of $43 billion. Another example is the company called COFCO, which is a trading company. It is spending $10 billion in acquisitions in the agri sector. China has bought and made arrangements in Brazil, Australia, Africa to undertake agricultural action, where Chinese companies make the supply of the inputs, so their industry keeps in the game and they have food security. These are the examples which I think we need to bear in mind. If you want to look at technologies and innovations, I think the best learning could come from the Dutch. They have mastered the art of precision agriculture. They have made agriculture climate-proof. You fly over Holland at night, and you will see a huge number of lights all over the small, tiny little country, because those are the lights in their precision farmhouses. They produce 20 metric tons of potato from an acre against the world average of 9 tons. I have to say that we did invite a delegation to work with us on the potato mission, but somehow they couldn't make much progress here, but that's another matter. They're the second largest exporter of agricultural commodities, second after the United States, whose land mass is 270 times the size of Holland. They have managed to reduce water consumption by 90%. They've virtually eliminated the use of pesticides. And we just heard Sanjeev talking about, as I said, the challenge of resources in terms of the resources of water, finance, and what have you, the resources of, and the natural challenges. They have reduced the antibiotic use by 60% for their cattle, which makes it far more healthier meat to produce. They have improved their seeds by the use of molecular breeding rather than looking at GMOs, as a result of which 1/3 of the world's seed trade takes place out of Holland. And their target, what is their target? And I quote, to produce more food in 4 decades that all the farmers in the world have harvested in the past 8,000 years. That's the challenge they are looking to meet. To my mind, Honorable Minister, the present and the most immediate challenge in agriculture is not technology and innovations. It is the risk in farming vis-a-vis the markets. I would urge that our first priority, we should focus on framing policies, processes, and procedures to ensure that the farmer has the confidence that he can sell at a reasonable price what he produces. It could be through e-commerce, it could be through futures, it could be through land leasing and buyback arrangements. It could be by some innovative thinking, some new technology input to ensure the connect between the farmer and the markets. We have to think, and we need to think out of the box to set the first thing right. As a businessman, and all of us here sitting who are in business, the biggest challenge in business is not production. The biggest challenge is selling what you produce. I can produce cars if somebody else has done it, but I'm not sure I can sell the cars the way Toyota or the BMW sell today. And that is the crux of the farmer's challenge today that needs to be met by putting in technology and innovations, practicing the right things, else, as Sai has put up here, we will perish. So, lastly, for all this to happen, there is one resource which I believe is infinite, which is limitless, which is unbounded and almost cosmic. And that is the power of our minds, our thinking, and our ingenuity. We must create various scenarios of what we need from our agriculture in the next 10, 20, 50 years, and what we should be doing about it, starting from de-risking the farmer's business, building our infrastructure, and I assure you, the rest will follow. If we look at the history of last 40 years, Indian farmers have not failed Indian citizens. Our farmers have provided enough, but we need to set their risk in order. We need not necessarily reinvent the wheel. I think there is a lot to learn in terms of technologies and policy initiatives from the 2 examples I gave. I'm sure there would be many learning opportunities there. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.